The safety of the dog walk has been in discussion now for a couple of years. Not only the entrance line, but the height of it, the width of it. And I think that we have come a long way in our thought process of how dogs load onto the dog walk, taking into account the dog's path, the dog's speed, all of that. But I also think that course design is going to continue to possibly bring in some unsafe lines for the dog walk for certain dogs. And so what I want to do for my students is I want you to learn how to recognize if the dog walk is an unsafe entrance for your dog, that I want you to have the tools on how to handle it, or some of the options that you have when you are faced at a trial or even at somebody's practice area or even in class. If you believe the dog walk has an unsafe entrance for your dog, some of the options that you have. The first thing is learning how to recognize the path of your dog. If a dog walk entrance is truly unsafe for your dog. One of the first things that I want my students to do is to walk their dog's path. So the configuration here goes A-frame, this end of the tunnel, the far right side of the tunnel, coming onto the dog walk. So what I want my students to do on every single dog walk path is to go to the obstacle prior to the dog walk, whether it be a tunnel, a jump, a tire, weed pulls, whatever it is the dog is coming from, and to try and walk what they predict their dog's path to be off of that specific obstacle. So if there's a lot of speed coming into that obstacle, how are they going to take a jump? How are they going to come out of a tunnel? So this tunnel happens to be a macaroni tunnel, and this course design comes from an actual trial. So I'm not making this up on my own. And so it was A-frame to a macaroni tunnel onto the dog walk. And what I want my students to do is to come to the exit of the obstacle and to walk their dog, what they believe will be their dog's path. So does the dog come out of the tunnel and turn to look for the handler, coming basically right onto the dog walk path? Or does the dog shoot out of the tunnel and then look for the handler, which potentially can become a dangerous path? So when you get to the top of the arc of what you believe your dog's line will be, I want you to stop and look at the dog walk entrance. And if it is on an angle, then you run the risk of your dog not getting onto the dog walk balanced and potentially falling off. Always keep in mind that physics is going to take over your dog's momentum. Dogs do not have the ability, or do I think they have the responsibility, to self-correct their own entrance line. So I believe that it is up to the handler to correct the dog's line. So I want my handlers to come to the exit of the obstacle prior, walk out their dog's path, stop and evaluate whether or not they believe the dog walk entrance is suitable for their dog. And if they deem that the entrance is indeed unsafe for their dog, I believe they have 4 choices. The first one is to handle the entrance to the dog walk. That requires the handler to come down into the dog's line to help shape the line onto the dog walk. Number 2 is to talk to the judge. You could always talk to the judge, see if they're willing to tweak the course and offer you a slightly different entrance that you would then deem safe, potentially deem safe. The third option is to run your course FEO or NFC. So if you indeed went into a course with the intent to run it as a competition run for qualification, and you felt that the dog walk line was unsuitable for your dog, and you didn't want to handle it, then just don't do this part of the course and treat the entire run like a training run. So NFC or FEO the run. The fourth option would be to not run at all. Just give the run up and do something else with your dog during that time. If you decide to handle the entrance to the dog walk, that generally means that you're going to be required to come down into the dog's path to do what's called shaping the dog's line. And that is staying down in this path to help create a good entrance line for your dog. No matter how I want to handle this entrance, if I feel that this dog walk line is unsafe for my dog and my choice is to handle the entrance, then I know that me personally, I'm going to sacrifice my exit. Okay, I'm not going to worry about what happens down on the exit because I will always default to a safe entrance and keep training for an independent exit because I can't be in two places at once. So if I have to handle the entrance, then I'm going to forego and get a non-qualifying run potentially by not being able to handle the obstacles on the exit of the dog walk. I think it is way more important that our dogs NQ on a safe exit line than our dogs NQ on an unsafe entrance. In general, dogs generally require fast. This problem is mostly about big dogs, big flanky dogs. However, that being said, my daughter's little Sheltie, her little 8-inch jumping Sheltie, was one of the widest turners out of tunnels that I've ever seen a small dog do. And so her dog would come flying out of the tunnel on almost the exact line that a big border collie would, because she had no tight collection turns on tunnels. So she would flank out and she would indeed come up on a very dangerous line for this dog walk. She may not be traveling quite as fast as the bigger dogs, but that doesn't mean that her energy, her momentum isn't going to catch her right here and potentially pull her off of this dog walk. So in general, dogs require approximately 12 feet to load up clean and balance onto this dog walk. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's approximately here is where we need to clean the dog's line up to get them straight and balanced, or as straight as possible and balanced as possible for the dog walk, which then requires us to be somewhere down in here, okay? So having the dog come on this line and straightening up for the dog walk. All right, so something to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out where you want to be for shaping the line is the further forward you are away from your dog's turn, the less control you have of that turn. So the further away you are from the dog's arc out of the tunnel or arc off of the obstacle, the less control you have of that turn unless you have strong verbals. And just as an example, a lot of dogs, when the handler is way up here, the dog is likely to drift out, and they're also being called by this A-frame. So not only are they going to just naturally drift out on their momentum, but we've also got an obstacle, this big A-frame, that is talking to them, that is calling their name. So the further we are up the line, the harder it is to control this turn down here. So we want to come down, not to block the A-frame, but to shape the dog's line for the entrance to the dog walk. All right, so I did some video yesterday, and let me just play that for you and show you what Eli did. A little tighter. But he was like, was he like here?
See, yeah.
This is what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, very wide, right? Good bull.
Yeah.
Very wide. So if you're not sure where to be on this line for your dog, then I would play it safe and be closer to the exit of the tunnel than further away and unable to control it. So if you're able to be down here, you also want to make sure that they don't flank out behind you. We don't want them coming up behind you and getting onto the dog walk. And so maybe even you need to work on some recall to heel coming in on this path that would then help with the dog walk. The other thing to keep in mind is that we want to make sure that when we bring our dogs off of this exit, that we don't actually step back into their line. So when you come down and you plant yourself, try and plant yourself on your back leg, putting all your weight there so that you can step out of it on the dog walk path, okay? So grabbing your dog, maybe, and it doesn't have to be a big step, but grabbing your dog, and then this foot goes this direction on the dog walk line, goes on the line of the path you want, as opposed to putting your weight on your front foot. And then we have a tendency, so the path that we want the dog to take is this one, right? We want them to parallel that path as they come into us. We want them to parallel that path. If we put our balance on our front foot, we have a tendency to catch our balance by stepping on this line, which would then S-line our dogs potentially over to the other incorrect side of the line, okay? So we can end up fishtailing our dog onto the dog walk. And again, the faster the dog is, the harder this gets for them. So practicing this without your dog, how to send them in, step, and move out on the correct line, I would practice that without my dog present. All right, so again, to recap, I think you have 4 choices when you are looking at a less than ideal dog walk entrance. 1, you can handle it for your own dog, figure out how they come out of things, play it safe if you feel like they're gonna flank out pretty far, staying down here, shaping their line. You could talk to the judge, see if the judge is willing to alter the path for those big strided dogs, or even little, but little do have a little bit more leniency in that generally when they are shorter strided and turning tighter, turning under the dog walk line, then generally speaking, you will have enough time to help them self-correct before that 12-foot mark. Okay, not always, but sometimes, or more likely than the big flanky dogs. So you can handle it, you can talk to your judge, you can go ahead and forget going for the qualification and run it for training, NFC, FEO, something that allows you to train elsewhere in the ring, or you can not run the run at all. Okay, I mean, there's probably other options out there as well, but to me, I believe those are the 4 big options that my students have. So I think that we need, as competitors, I think we need to continue to be wise about what our dog's path is, paying attention to it, walking it in the walkthrough, and then handling for safety of our dog, worst case scenario. I do believe that course design needs to continue to be smart, as smart as they can about those big strided dogs that are going to overshoot this line and come and pretty fastly, right? They're going to come in pretty fast and get this dog walk line potentially at a very dangerous angle. So let me also just make a note of what to do so this is called shaping the line. What I was talking about before is called shaping the line, where you use yourself, your body, as a wall to create the line that you want. But what happens if you don't have that ability? What happens if you end up, or you need to be on this side of the line, and you know that your dog is going to drift out super far? One of the most powerful tools that you have in trying to create a tighter turn is lack of motion. Always keep in mind that dogs grab the run line super, super quick. So if your lack of motion, you're more likely to get a tighter turn as soon as the dog sees it coming than if you try and get this solely on a verbal. You can get it on a verbal, but it's going to take a ton of training. And if the dog automatically defaults to motion, then your lack of motion is super, super important. One thing that I want to make clear, and I'm going to put this at the beginning, but I'm going to say it now, is no matter how I want to handle this entrance, if I feel that this dog walk line is unsafe for my dog and my choice is to handle the entrance, then I know that me personally, I'm going to sacrifice my exit. Okay, I'm not going to worry about what happens down on the exit because I will always default to a safe entrance and keep training for an independent exit because I can't be in two places at once. So if I have to handle the entrance, then I'm going to forego and get a non-qualifying run potentially by not being able to handle the obstacles on the exit of the dog walk. I think it is way more important that our dogs NQ on a safe exit line than our dogs NQ on an unsafe entrance. Okay, because either way, I'm potentially going to get an NQ. Either I ignore the entrance and ask my dog to take the responsibility for finding a clean, safe, balanced entrance and work the exit, or I take the responsibility and work a balanced line, safe, straight, balanced line for my dog on the entrance and forego being down at the exit to help them. Now, this is where stop contacts have a benefit. If you have a good stop contact, work your entrance every single time. If you have a running, keep training for independence on that exit line. I hope that as an agility community, we are able to continue to be thoughtful about our course design, thoughtful about our handling, that we keep the dog safety at the forefront of our plans, that we learn to predict our dog's lines and paths to the best of our ability, and that we practice seeing how dogs drift off of lines before we go into competition and before we actually put them on the dog walk. All right, love your dogs, keep them safe. Let's keep talking about this dog walk. Thank you. Boop.